What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into covers albums and finishing my deep dive into the Doobie Brothers studio albums. Today, it's an album called Southbound. I don't like covers albums, really. I just don't see the point of them. I do see the point of them. I can argue my way to understanding why they exist, but I don't like listening to them. So I'm listening to as many as I possibly can to find the good ones. And there are some good ones out there. This is the 27th one I've done so far. I'm going to rank them all. I'm giving each song either 1 point or 0 points, depending on whether or not I think it needs to exist as a cover song in a studio version. Different attitude, opinion about live stuff. Then I'm going to rank this album among the other 26 based on how many songs get points and turn that into percentage. Like if all the songs get all the points, it's 100%. Half the songs get points, 50%. Works like that. This is an interesting little album because it is the Doobie Brothers covering their own material. So it is essentially a Doobie Brothers greatest hits package, songs re-recorded in 2014 with contemporary country artists. Brad Paisley is on here, the Zac Brown Band is on here, Blake Shelton is on here, Huey Lewis is on here. Yeah, and then some artists that I'm not as familiar with. It is pretty much a greatest hits collection. I think the deepest cuts would be maybe South City Midnight Ladies, a relatively deep cut as far as like radio play goes. And then Nobody off their very first song off their very first album is kind of a deep cut. Other than that, it's just hit after hit after hit after hit. And other than like a pedal steel guitar here, some nice little country rock licks on guitar here, other vocalists singing the songs, this is still like, this is the core four of what I think we define the Doobie Brothers as. Johnson is here, Simmons is here, McPhee is here, McDonald is here, doing Michael McDonald stuff. But really, other than like whenever a guest vocalist steps up and sings, and usually I don't think as well as the original Doobie Brothers vocalist sings. It's an exercise in why. These versions are so true to the original versions. If anything, they've sort of lost that 70s eclectic charm that makes, I think, the Doobie Brothers such an interesting band, is they have this weird, what just seems truly genuine mix of so many other subgenres. And these almost seem like polished country rock radio versions. Like, I'm not a big country rock fan as far as like things that come out of quote unquote Nashville, but like from what I understand is Nashville is like a hit making machine. That's the city, that's the country place. This just seems like these were made to like be played on like country radio. And look, it's the Doobie Brothers, but it's also with Brad Paisley, so it's going to be a hit. They just seem like a little too polished up and lost some of the charm of the originals, even though they sound exactly like the originals. Interesting listen. Opens up with Blackwater, the Zac Brown Band. Sounds great, but it just sounds like the original. I do think it's a little bit slower, feels a little more adult. That here's some funky Dixieland, pretty mom doesn't just quite have that same like, you know, we used to sing that song walking home from school. When we were like in like elementary school, because it was on this TV show called What's Happening. And there'd be like 5 or 6 of us going, here's some funk. I mean, you would get into it. This version doesn't quite inspire that same thing. Listen to the music with Blake Shelton and Hunter Hayes. Just incredibly true to the original. Yeah. What a Fool Believes with Sarah Evans. And she actually sings on this. So the song starts, you're immediately reminded what an incredible song it is. She starts singing. I'm like, okay, at least this is something a little bit different. I was thinking at this point, okay, maybe Michael's not in the band, but then Michael ends up singing anyways on it later on. There's a random little guitar solo in there, little minor moments of just minor sort of additions that just seem like, let's do something a little bit different just so it's different, but not because it actually adds anything to the song. Yeah. Long Train Running is next. The intro feels a little more fleshed out in that they've added instruments and, okay, no, it's already perfect. Yeah, just know this is with Toby Keith and Huey Lewis. China Grove kind of sounds exactly like the original. This is with Chris Young. The one song I do like that I actually think is pretty good starts off sounding exactly like the original, has these weird little boom drum drops throughout it. Michael is performing, he's the lead singer on this. He's going way too hard, being way too Michael McDonaldy. But then it's taking it to the streets with Love and Theft. Don't know who Love and Theft is. But I think Michael sings the first verse chorus, and then the Love and Theft guy comes in and sings. And I kind of like his voice. I kind of wish he had sung the whole thing. This maybe would have felt more like a cover that works. It has this jammy little rave up at the end where they kind of extend it. And it has this like live energy, like, all right, let's jam out this song. Kind of some tasty guitar, minor little tweaks in there. Taking it to the streets absolutely works. Giving that one a point. Jesus is just all right with someone named Casey Jones. Is that Casey James? Not Casey Jones. Casey James. I think it feels a little more. This is probably the one that feels more like. I don't even know what it feels like. It feels like a Guitar Hero version of this or something. It just feels like all the pieces are there, but there's something lacking in this. Rocking Down the Highway with Brad Paisley. Isn't Brad Paisley like an absolutely amazing guitar player? I don't think he should be able to stretch out a little bit more, though this does have some good guitar rocking down the highway energy. Take Me in Your Arms, Rock Me. Some really nice bass playing on this. The bass, this is with Tyler Farr. Love the bass, love the guitar, but it still is pretty to the original, and I do think the original is just an underrated gem. South City Midnight Lady, but with Jared Neiman. It just there's a slightly bigger production about these songs that robs them of whatever that 70s special vibe is. And that just may be a bias of my own being raised on like the 70s versions, but this is just a little bit that the version, the South City Midnight Lady version on the Doobie Run, on what is it, the third album, right? Captain and Me, it just feels like, all right, all of a sudden we just have this glimpse into something a little more intimate, and before we go to like more rockers or something weird, and it just, I don't know, this just doesn't work. It just feels too polished. You Belong to Me with Amanda Sedano. She sings, then Michael comes in and sings. Seems like Michael likes to share with female vocalists. I like that change, but there's just, they add just little tiny little flourishes that don't need to be there that make me go like, oh, they already nailed this song back in the 70s. Like, why are we doing it again? Why are we just trying to like recreate it with like slightly different color palette? I don't know. And then the last two songs are Nobody, the intro. They take that little 15-second acoustic intro in the beginning of Nobody and stretch it out to like 45 seconds. Kind of cool. And then they go into Nobody with Charlie Worsham, which pretty much sounds like a fuller version of the original song. Yeah, like it's a good greatest hits collection. I think the performances are good in the day and age of like streaming music and the ability to buy anything on Amazon. I don't know why you would take this over their original greatest hits or even their second greatest hits. I think both of those are probably better collections because you get the original versions of these songs. They're not adding anything musically to the songs. And I don't think the artists, the country artists, are putting enough of their stamp on it to be like, oh, I really like what Blake Shelton did with this. I'm like, no, Blake Shelton sings like a verse. And that's it. Otherwise, it sounds like the original. I like what Brad Paisley did with this. No, Brad Paisley like sings like a verse. I like it. It was disappointing. So I'm giving it 1 point out of 13, which is 8%, which means if I were to rank this among all the others, it's a 26 out of 27 towards the bottom of the list. Not as bad as that Weezer thing, which just is, let's completely recreate the songs and make sure they sound exactly like the original. At least this one, there's good energy. I'll give it that. Most of these songs have good energy to them. I want more country flavor. I want these artists to be a little more like put your foot down and say, hey, this is what I would do, and I'm going to do it, because that's what makes cover out. That's what makes cover albums interesting. A lot of weird places where S's should or should not go in that sentence. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you check it out, covers albums in particular. If you have a covers album you want me to check out, please drop it in the comments. I'm all about bright, shiny objects, and the most recent one I see, I will chase down that rabbit hole. So always looking for suggestions. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.